Two slide two now.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Sunday morning ISKCON Portland Srimad Bhagavatam class. We will start with Mangalacharan. I'll share my screen and we can go over it. Once. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Okay. Let's recite the invocation verses for Srimad Bhagavatam. Why this green thing is coming here? Any idea? It says annotate. I don't know if you can see.
You can't see Babu. Yeah, but we can see the mouse Babu, the mouse pointer.
Here in the left corner of the previous screen and this screen, there's a green icon that is showing on my side.
Oh, we can't see Babu.
It says annotate. I thought it was only in the Chrome browser, but now it's in this PowerPoint also. Anyway. परीक्षित महाराज, श्री परीक्षित महाराज की जय। श्री सुखदेव गोस्वामी की जय। श्री सूत गोस्वामी की जय। शौनक आदिशि की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोकैर्भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Okay. we will proceed to the verse for today, which is 1.15.6, Canto 1, Chapter 15, which is titled The Pandavas Retire Timely. You can see here, it's written The Pandavas Retire Timely. And we can recite this verse. 1 second. Let me bring out my notes that I wrote on the. Okay, I will recite the verse 3 times and then devotees can take turns in reciting if they would like. Yasya kshana viyogena loko hi apriyadarshanaha ukthena rahito hyesha mritakah procyate tatha yatha. Yasya kshana viyogena loko hi apriyadarshanaha ukthena rahito hyesha mritakah procyate yatha. यस्य क्षणवियोगेन लोको हि अप्रियदर्शनः उक्थेन रहितो ह्येषा मृतकः प्रोच्यते यथा. Would anybody like to recite?
Okay, Tapu. Yasya kshanaviyogeena loko hyapriyadarshanah ukthena rahito hesha mritakaha prochate yatha. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yasya kshana yogena loko hi apriya darshanaha yuktena rahito hi esha mritakaha prochyate yata. Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yasya kshana viyogena loko hi apriyadarshana uktena rahito hi esha mrutaka prochyate yata. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I can recite them. Yasya क्षणवियोगेन लोको हि अप्रहिदर्शनः उत्तेन रहितो हि एष मृतकः प्रोच्यते यथा. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's proceed. Synonyms. Yasya, whose. Kshana, a moment. Viyogena, by separation. Lokaha, all the universes. He, certainly. Apriya darshanaha, everything appears unfavorable. Ukthena, by life. Rahitaha, being devoid of. He, certainly. Eshaha, all these bodies. Mritakaha, dead bodies. Prochyate, are designated yatha, as it were. Translation. I have just lost him, whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charana Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Factually, for a living being, there is no one dearer than the Lord. The Lord expands himself by innumerable parts and parcels as Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha. Paramatma is the Swamsha part of the Lord, whereas the Vibhinnamsha parts are the living beings. As the living being is the most important factor in the material body, for without the living being, the material body has no value. Similarly, without Paramatma, the living being has no status quo. Similarly, Brahman or Paramatma has no locus standi without the Supreme Lord Krishna. This is thoroughly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. They are all interlinked with one another or interdependent factors. Thus, in the ultimate issue, the Lord is the summum bonum and therefore the vital principle of everything. So once again, the verse is Yasya kshana viyogena loko hi apriya darshanaha uktena rahito hyesha mritakah prochyate yatha. Translation: I have just lost him, whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life. So, this verse is appearing in chapter 15 of the first canto. So, Arjuna has returned from Dwarka to Hastinapur, where Yudhishthir Maharaj is ruling as the emperor, and he is reporting back to Yudhishthir Maharaj that Lord Krishna has departed. And his whole Pandavas are the pure devotees of the Lord, and their lives are completely shattered by the departure of the Lord. So this is the verse where he conveys these few verses, last one and this one. He conveys the bad news to Yudhishthir Maharaj that Krishna has departed. And what is happening in this specific verse is that, as Srila Prabhupada has explained also in the purport, that without the Lord, nothing else, absolutely nothing else has any standing. Let alone the material world, even Brahman and Paramatma have no standing without the Lord. So, everything that seems very nice and pleasant suddenly loses all its meaning if the Lord is not present. And this is, of course, the devotee's view. For somebody who is not a devotee of the Lord, not a bhakta, may have different circumstances or different things that they attribute pleasure or happiness in life to. But since Pandavas are the pure devotees, for them, if Krishna is not there, then there is absolutely no joy or happiness in this world. The same world which was giving them happiness earlier is now like a dead body. So, all the previous acharyas give this example of for a son, the father is very dear. But when life leaves the body of the father, then the body, just the dead body, becomes repulsive, and the son disposes of the body of the father. Yeah, today is Father's Day, so it's not a very pleasant message for the fathers that one day their sons will dispose of their bodies, but that's the reality. It's a good message for Father's Day for us to be reminded, our fathers, that our real position is not father of a child, but our real position is the child or the servant of Sri Krishna, and he is our real father. And that is what we should try to build a loving relationship to, or he is the one we should try to build a loving relationship with. rather than with our family members and friends and everything that will be lost or cut off at the time of death. So in that sense, it's a good message. So the same thing that appeared very sweet, very lovable, very giving a lot of joy and happiness suddenly becomes repulsive or something that is completely tasteless. Apriya darshanaha. So that is what Arjuna is saying. Yasya Krishna viyogena. Due to Kshana viyogena. Due to a moment of viyoga or separation from Krishna, loko hi apriya darshanaha. That all the universes which were earlier looking nice have become apriya, have become completely distasteful, or there is no joy. There is, like for a sick person, even if you give him a nice plate of food, he'll be repulsed by it. It happens to me so many times. Same things that I liked now would seem repulsive just because there is sickness in the body. Similarly, the sickness here for the Pandavas is the separation from Sri Krishna. Ukthena rahito hi esha, just like without ukthena, without life, mritakaha prochyate yatha. That same thing which was giving joy earlier is looks like, appears like prochyate mritakaha, like a dead body. So that is the meaning of this verse. So the main point here is that for a devotee, as Srila Prabhupada has said here, that those who are self-realized, factually for the living being, there is no one dearer than the Lord. But not every living being realizes that the most dear person to us is Lord Shri Krishna. So that is the factual reality also. It's not just a matter of perception that a devotee sees in this way and a non-devotee or somebody who's not, who has no love for Krishna and loves the material world, simply sees the material world as the source of happiness. That happiness is temporary and leaves. But the happiness and the joy of relationship with Krishna never leaves. That is the difference. So, Lord Shri Krishna is the central factor in our lives or in the lives of devotees, and they see it that way. So I would like to spend some time discussing this point, that the main factor of all aspects of the life of a devotee is that the devotee holds Sri Krishna as the dearmost person in their lives. Without Sri Krishna, there is absolutely no existence, no source of joy, no taste, not even any existence, a sense of existence in this material world. Lord Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mattah parataram na anyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manikana iva. That I am the thread in the invisible thread in a garland or in a ornament that is holding all the jewels together. If the thread is not there, then the Manigana, the group of jewels that are held together by the thread and called as a necklace, will fall apart. So Lord Krishna is the glue that holds the material world together. Mattah parataram na anyat kinchid asti dhananjaya. There is nothing beyond me, nothing that is, I am the source of everything. So that is something that we should take away from this verse. Arjuna is such a pure devotee of the Lord that he is feeling so much separation. We generally talk of separation in terms of gopis and Vrajvasis. And of course, even Sri Rupa Goswami has called them as the topmost devotees. But Pandavas, it doesn't mean that this attachment to Sri Krishna can start or begins at a much, much earlier level. Even at the level of bhava, it is said that moksha laghutakrit. What happens at even higher levels is Sri Krishna Akarshani, that Krishna gets attracted to the devotees, but the devotee is attracted to Lord Krishna completely much, much earlier. And even Pandavas are as pure as it gets. There's no comparison, so to say. There's no ranking between devotees. There is and there isn't. And Pandavas, the point I'm trying to make is Pandavas are extremely, extremely pure devotees of the Lord, and they're hankering for Sri Krishna. The presence of Sri Krishna in their lives is everything for them. And when Krishna departs, they also depart. That is what this whole chapter is about, that now Krishna has departed. There is no meaning to our lives. Let us also retire. And they hand over the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj, their grandson, and they retire. So the main point here is that we should try to get to are we at a place where we are feeling that hankering or that separation from Krishna in our lives? Now, for the materialistic people, those who are absorbed in sense gratification, the world is more or less just fine. There is no problem as such in the material world. There is temporary happiness, there is temporary suffering. And the idea is that enjoy or make hay while the sun shines. And when there is winter, then just wait it out and wait for the summer. And the cycle keeps going on. And this is an accepted truth. And people live in that way, completely unaware, or even if they are somewhat aware, not heeding much, not paying much attention to the fact that this human life has been given for a reason, to develop that love for Bhagwan, let alone developing a loving relationship for the Lord. For many, many, many people, there is no even conception of the Lord in their lives. But here we are talking about deep love for Bhagwan, that when Bhagwan leaves, just like one has the deep hankering for something material. It may be, for a family member. It may be for a boy, between a boy and a girl. It may be between a person and his wealth or property. So many situations we read, that when the stock market crashed or somebody lost everything, they committed suicide. So why is that? Because there is such deep attachment to these material things that when that is taken away or when that goes, there is absolutely no meaning left in life. And then they commit suicide or they take these extreme measures. So that is why Sri Rupa Goswami begins the discussion of Raga Bhakti, that with this example of materially minded people, that they have so much rag. And it, at least for me, it resonates very well, because I am such a person who is deeply attached to material objects, that in a moment or in a click, one can understand what is rag. It is that spontaneous, natural, deep affection, attachment to the object of attachment, without which life itself appears to have no meaning at all. And then he goes on in the discussion about that now, if that object of attachment is not the material sense objects, and it is Sri Krishna, then that is the Ragatmika Bhakta, or somebody who is a pure devotee of the Lord. So the aim of one's, or the goal of one's life, should be to develop that deep love for Krishna, that to the extent that if somehow we lose Krishna from our lives, just like in the case of Pandavas, they lost Krishna from their lives, then life itself would begin to have, or would become meaningless, completely meaningless, to the extent that we would want to just leave the world. So, are we making progress in our lives of bhakti towards such a goal, or towards such a bhava, where we can have so much attachment to Krishna and Krishna alone that nothing else matters? He is the only thing that matters. If he is there, everything is well and good. But if he's not there and everything else is there, then that everything has no meaning. So Krishna being the one and only cause of happiness in our lives, and he fills happiness in other things in this world as well, which then we find some happiness in. Loko hi apriya darshanaha. So when Krishna is there, then loko hi priya darshana. The loka, the universe, becomes priya. But if Krishna is not there, then the loka, the universes, become apriya. So are we making progress in our lives? Or that's the goal of bhakti, to develop that love, the deep love for Sri Krishna. So then the question is, how do we get a sense if that is the case, if we are developing that love? So it is said that, we can use the phrase, one of the phrases, that you realize the value of someone when you lose him, or you realize the value of something when you lose it. And that is true in many cases. And in people also, we don't value people when they are with us, but when they leave us, either physically, like, move away or something, or when they pass away, so either they leave us temporarily or permanently, then sometimes we realize, in some case, one may feel, yeah, okay, I don't have to deal with this person anymore. But if there is some love, then one realizes, or that comes up more prominently than all the negative aspects when there is separation. So how can we see that in Krishna, in our lives? If Krishna disappears, what would our lives be like? Now that brings us to the question that what does it mean that Krishna disappears from our lives? Can Krishna disappear from our lives? In case of Arjuna, that was more literal, that he disappeared because in the sense of his presence on the planet was no longer there. He ended his pastimes. But in our case, what does it mean that Krishna disappearing from our lives? How can we imagine a situation like that?
So by drifting away from association, Prabhu, of devotees?
Drifting away from association of devotees. Okay, very nice. Like, can we say, like in COVID, it happened? At least in-person association was
Yes.
taken away from us.
Mm.
And not only with devotees, with deities also.
Yes.
Temple was closed for many months. Of course, then one can say that we have temple in our home, we got devotee association on Zoom, and so on. It was not completely taken away, right? In-person association is best, but in the absence, okay, Zoom is a good enough for a Kam Chalau, we say, na? Kam Chalau alternative. What else?
Our thirst for things that are not related to Krishna takes prominence.
Yes. So that is the main essence. That when we realize, not when we realize, now the question is, if you realize that thirst for other things in our lives takes prominence, and we realize it, that Krishna has taken a lower prominence, is that also forgetfulness or of Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In that case, my understanding is that it's our taste has decreased, but that doesn't mean that we have completely lost faith. So maybe because of some anarthas, the taste in bhakti has gone down. But still, you have the seed, so you do realize that okay, something is missing.
So what we are, very nice. So between those two answers, what we are saying is that there is a gradient. It is not binary, that either we have forgotten Krishna or we remember him. And the fact that the degree to which we give prominence in our lives to material things and not even realize that we are giving prominence to these things is the true degree to which we have forgotten or Krishna has disappeared from our lives, which means the entry of materialism or sense gratification or material objects in our lives and taking space in our lives is a very clear indication of Krishna leaving our lives. And it's a gradient, it's not binary. So that is exactly the point which I wanted to get to. The more and more and more we get attached to Krishna, to material life, without even realizing that we have stopped even thinking of Krishna, to that extent, Krishna has disappeared from our lives. Otherwise, there is, in our situation, there is absolutely no way, zero, that Krishna can disappear from our lives. Krishna is present as the Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if you are put in a jail, Krishna is non-different from his name. You may not have the Srimad Bhagavatam with you. Maybe you have not memorized it. If you have memorized it or memorized some portions of it, you can take the Srimad Bhagavatam with you even in jail or in a concentration camp. But Krishna's name is always present or is always available. And even in a concentration camp, in a cold, dark night, the smarana or the remembrance of Krishna's name is something that we are always free to do. There is no jail, no concentration camp in the world that yet has the power to capture or to subdue our mind. So our mind is our own, and in our mind we can always remember Krishna's name. We may not remember his pastimes because we may not have had that deeper remembrance, but the Nama Smarana is always there, and that alone is enough. There is no need for any other type of Smarana. It is said that Nam, Roop, Guna, Leela, they occur in a sequence. That is true, at least theoretically. I have no practical experience of it. But It is not said that there is any kind of a ranking, or even if there is a ranking, it's nowhere said that unless you reach the Leela Smaran stage, then one gets the highest result. Simply from Nam Smaran, one can get the highest stage. Simply. Sri Haridas Thakur was known as Nam Acharya. He was not known as Leela Acharya. So he's Nam Acharya. So Nam Smaran, as long as it is there in the mind, then Krishna has not disappeared from our life. Then the question becomes that how much are we really holding on to Krishna, whether it is through Kirtan or Smarana or Shravan, whether it is Kirtan, Smaran, Shravan of Nam or Roop or Guna or Leela, whatever in this whole, whatever 4x4 or whatever X by Y matrix, wherever it is, where are we in our progress in this journey of really holding Krishna so dear in our lives that if somehow he were to disappear, we would be like fish out of water. Somehow, if he were to be taken away from our lives. So that is the question. Any thoughts? The question is, how can we measure, or how can we see that in our lives we are making progress towards that deep attachment to Krishna, that we even dread the thought that if Krishna were to leave our life, we would be like a fish out of water. Are we making progress toward that goal?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One of the symptoms I have heard and understood is that having attachment to Krishna is one thing. All his associates in Tadiya, his paraphernalia. So the attachment to that is a little bit more easier to perceive. So already devotees did share the same thing, like the attachment to association of devotees, and so these forms of things. If we start feeling that okay, we are developing more and more attachment, we feel as if our life depends on it, then we know that okay, we are progressing. At the same time, if we see that the attachment to material things gradually decreases, that also indicates that we are developing attachment to Krishna.
Wonderful, very nice. So when Sri Rupa Goswami describes the 9 stages of bhakti, there are 2 stages that come in the more advanced level, which is ruchi and asakti. So what is the difference between ruchi and asakti? Now, in English, somebody may say ruchi is taste and asakti is attraction. Or in more general terms, one can say that these are just 2 different levels of the same thing. You can say one is level 1, another is level 2, or just it's a deeper or higher form of the previous one. What is the real difference between the 2? So, in the commentary to this verse, in the Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is 1.4.15 and 16, Sri Jiva Goswami gives a wonderful commentary, and every line of that commentary is packed with insights. And he gives very short, one-word explanation or commentary on each of, or most of the terms. And each one is like, opens up so much insights into bhakti. So for these 2 words, ruchi and asakti, he says that ruchi means attachment to the limb of bhakti. And asakti means attachment to the object of bhakti. And that's very clear distinction. And I can also sort of see in practice of many devotees. Of course, I am not at that level. But when somebody is very attached to a specific limb of bhakti, and many devotees are attached to, each one may be attached to a different limb of bhakti, and there is so much attachment to a specific limb of bhakti. And that's not bad at all. That's wonderful. One may not have attachment to a different limb of bhakti, and that's okay. We should appreciate that at least this person has attachment to one or two limbs of bhakti, but may not have attachment to another limb of bhakti. But what does that show? That shows that the attachment is more to the limb of bhakti than to the object of bhakti, because the object of bhakti in all the limbs is the same. So if the attachment is to the object of bhakti, then there would not be any such distinction between not finding as much taste. One may still perform a specific limb of bhakti based on one's conditioning or one's skills or the seva that one has chosen or has been given, but the taste will almost be the same in all the limbs if the attachment is to the object of bhakti. And that is why, if you see the 9 symptoms of bhava bhakti that have been given by Sri Rupa Goswami, all of them are present. It's not an or. Then he does not say that these are the 9 most and there is no ek anga and anek anga in those symptoms of bhava bhakti. And those 9 symptoms of bhava bhakti include all the 5 limbs of bhakti in the 64 limbs are included within those 9. So at that level of bhava, by the time one has gone beyond ruchi and asakti and reached bhava, one has deep attachment to the object of bhakti. But it is perfectly fine to have attachment to a specific limb of bhakti. But the point is that developing that deep attachment to something, to even limb of bhakti, if not the object of the limb of bhakti. And that brings to the point of that asakti, or that you can say ruchi or asakti. Now I'm kind of amalgamating or joining or these two. I explained the difference between ruchi and asakti, hopefully, based on the commentary of Sri Jiva Goswami. But let's say it's the same. A very general term that is used is bhakti with asakti and bhakti without asakti. And which one is better? Bhakti with asakti or bhakti without asakti? Of course, bhakti with asakti is better. So what happens is that for many people, they say that I have been practicing bhakti for so many years, and now I feel like it's become very mechanical. It becomes like a routine. It is part of my daily practice. Just like, you get up and brush your teeth and take a shower and, do certain things. It becomes your japa or your deity worship in the morning, and Gayatri and whatever else. But it becomes like a part of the daily routine and very mechanical. And genuine love, this deep hankering for Sri Krishna is not there. That if somehow if Krishna were to disappear, now it may be hard to say to that person that how can Krishna disappear, but at the same time, because Krishna is not present like he is for Arjuna, but at the same time, there may be a sense of this mechanical aspect of bhakti that has crept in over the years. So how should we deal with that? So now some may say that it's okay, the analogy of eating a medicine. When you eat a medicine, do you have to eat it with let's just take the situation of Western medicine. May not be Eastern medicine or Ayurveda. Maybe there is some aspect of consciousness involved, but definitely in Western medicine, which is scientifically proven, and not just scientifically, it works. Even I take Western medicine, it just works. At least for simpler problems, not even simple, even very deeper problems like cancer also, it works. And there may be more deeper problems like psychology and mental issues and this and that, where it may or may not work. And there may be some other forms like meditation or other forms may work. But at least we cannot say that Western medicine does not work. It absolutely works. And you need not have any love for the medicine for it to work. All you have to do is just take it regularly. So sometimes this analogy is given that you take the medicine regularly and it will work. And this analogy applies to bhakti, that even if you do your bhakti mechanically, but you do it every day, then it is fine. Bhakti is like the medicine. The disease is avidya. And the example that is given is that of jaundice. When it is jaundice, you just give sugar candy to the person and it will treat him. He doesn't have to take the medicine with any kind of love. He just has to take it. Whether with love or mechanically does not matter. Is that a true statement?
To a certain degree it is, but it doesn't take all the way.
Can you say something more, or can somebody say something more?
I think there should also be some element of faith, Prabhu, that the medicine will cure you.
Okay.
Can you kindly summarize your question?
The question is that just mechanically doing bhakti is good enough, and there is not that much need to add asakti in bhakti. Is that a true statement?
When you do not have a taste for a higher thing, like you might start performing your bhakti mechanically, but you will not sustain on it longer. That's what I think. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I mean, my understanding is external engagement without internal absorption is, not the place we want to go to. We may, like Vijay Mataji said, we may start with, and Krishna Bhagavan himself says, Am sarvasu prabho mata sarvam pravatati iti mata pajanti mam bhuda bhava samanuta. So bhajan has to occur, but one has to have some level of absorption. So unlike medicine, where yes, medicine will work whether I have faith in it or not, this requires a commitment of the heart. That's my understanding.
Yes. Yes, all of you said correctly that mechanical bhakti, at least it's better than mechanical or bhava in the material sense objects, which we all have. I definitely have. But mechanical bhakti is better than that But the best is bhakti, which is not mechanical, but which is full of bhava, or which is full of asakti or sneha. And it's not a small component that, yes, mechanical bhakti is 90% there. I'm just putting some number, random, not random, but just indicative, that then the asakti or the sneha is only the final, it adds the 10%. You're almost there. No, it's the other way around, that mechanical bhakti is very, very slow progress. And the moment we add asakti or sneha, then it accelerates at an unprecedented rate. So therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami mentions two things. Syat Krishna Nama Charitapi Sitapya Vidya Pittopatapta Rasanasya Narochikano Pintva Adarad Anudinam Khalu Saiva Jushta Swadvi Kramad Bhavati Tadgada Mulahantri. So that same verse which talks about the disease of Pittopatapta Rasanasya Na Rochikanu, that disease of Pitta, of jaundice, where something sweet appears bitter, na rochikanu, completely distasteful. Kintu adarad anudinam. So he mentions two things. That same medicine, or the same thing that rasanasya, that sweet thing which appears bitter, should be taken every day. So there is the mechanical aspect of it. If we were to equate anudinam as the mechanical aspect, okay, do it every day. Just like Western medicine, you have to take it every day, or whatever the prescription is. You have to follow the prescription. But adarad means asakti, sneha, with adara, with a lot of faith. Bhava, buddha bhava samanvita. So, iti matva bhajante mam. Knowing this, that I am everything, what does a devotee do? Does my bhajan, not mechanically, definitely yes, anudinam, adarat, buddha bhava samanvita. So with bhava, or with attachment, one does bhajan of Bhagavan. And then that fructifies into bhava and prema level of bhakti. So it's very, very, very important to add the component of asakti or sneha or bhava in our bhajan. And then we are making good progress. And automatically, one will see that when one does it in this way, how much progress occurs in one's bhakti. How much one automatically feels satisfied, and not only satisfied, to some extent confident that I am on the right path. Then no external confirmation is needed, let alone external confirmation. No even desire for external confirmation is needed or exists. And that's, in other words, just saying that one is confident about one's progress in Bhakti. One feels confident. The meaning of that is there is no even desire or need to get any external validation. How am I doing in my bhakti? One knows internally that one is doing very well. There is this very beautiful verse, and a very paradoxical verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a little hard to understand. (27) Yatha vairānubandhena martyas tanmayatam yat na tatha bhakti yogena iti me nishchita matihi. So Narad Muni is saying this to Yudhishthir Maharaj, that yatha vairānubandhena. Now this is the topic where Shishupal was killed, and he was inimical to Krishna, vaira anubandhena. So Narad Muni is saying that such animosity, vairanubandhena, for somebody to have such deep animosity, tanmayatamiyat, just he was absorbed, tanmaya ho gaya. Tanmaya matlab like he was just, immersed, or he was like as if you immerse some sponge into something, and when you take it out, it's just full of that. You squeeze it and all that comes out is the juice. So he's full of tanmay, means like that. He's just, his whole existence is just oozing out animosity for Krishna. And he says that is better, or that is far better than na tatha bhakti yogena, far better than bhakti, or favorable process or practice of bhakti. And Narad Muni is saying, this is my certain opinion, nishchita matihi. The translation given by Srila Prabhupada is, Narad Muni continued, by devotional service, one cannot achieve such intense absorption in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through enmity toward him. That is my opinion. So how do we understand this? If you read, I'll just read the translation and the verse for a second. It's very paradoxical. He's saying that animosity is better for absorption in Krishna than devotional service. So the point that is being made here is that animosity is not that animosity is better. What is being highlighted here is that intense absorption in animosity is better than mechanical bhakti. That's why the word is used, bhakti yogena. The bhakti yoga is the process of bhakti, especially hinting at sadhana bhakti. Within sadhana bhakti also it is talking about vaidhi sadhana bhakti. And that too, vaidhi sadhana bhakti without bhava, or without that asakti. So basically mechanical practice of bhakti. Way, way better is absorbed animosity. Because the whole point this is conveying is that absorption in Sri Krishna is the number one factor. So whatever seva, I'll just conclude, it's already past 9. Whatever seva we are doing for Sri Krishna, we should do with deep absorption, or at least, if not deep, then go towards that. In many cases, it may become mechanical. And it's very easy to throw money at a problem. If you want to, let's say, show bhakti, you can beautify your temple by throwing money and purchase, or even hired, give a contract to somebody and say, hey, make this look beautiful. Give them $20,000 and they will come in like Party Pro or something, and whatever professionals will come and beautify it. Versus, for example, today we are celebrating in the temple this Pushpabhishek, and the devotees were like yesterday, with their hands, they were making the dress. Now, you can give a dress making to some, ordinary tailor, very famous tailor in New York. I think I've heard suits and all cost thousands of dollars there, just because, I don't even know for what reason they cost that much. So you can say that, this is the most expensive one. Okay, my money is also indicative. One is spending hard-earned money. But for a billionaire or something, spending that much, can be like, a show. The mood is that of show versus the mood is that of absorption. So when you make it with your own hands, also in that also there can be some sense of materialism. Or even one can say that even those people, it should not become just a social thing either. Get together, we'll get together with friends, we'll decorate it with our hands, but is the mind in Krishna? That we should always keep front and center, keeping the mind in Krishna. Because otherwise it can just become like a social festivity. Look at Halloween. People decorate their houses. Sure, they decorate it with all these repulsive things like skeletons and ghosts and spiders, but still, a lot of effort goes in that decoration, let alone, or even people who celebrate big festivals, Diwali or this or that. Everybody in India celebrates. How much affection they have for Lord Ram on Deepavali, one has to question, or not question as in not like question someone else, but one has to inquire, one has to contemplate and introspect. So similarly, even though we are doing a lot of limbs of bhakti and seva, always we must be on that quest to inquire ourselves. Am I doing this exclusively out of absorption or asakti or love for Krishna? Or am I doing it for some other reason which has some material tinge in it, whether it is some kind of, festivity or having a good time or just, we derive joy from those things. Festivals are a great, material source of happiness. All cultures have various festivals. Just like I said, like Halloween, July 4th is like a big festival in America. But it has absolutely, neither of those have absolutely any spiritual connection. It's completely material. So that is something we should always keep in mind. So I'll end with that. There's a lot more I had prepared, but I thought I think I went very slowly over the top points. But anyway, any comments or questions?
Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice lecture.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Lots of nice points and reminders for us. Or at the beginning stages of bhakti to focus on the essence through the example of Chaitanya Charitamrita that states that Lord Krishna taught the whole world through Arjun. So we can learn a lot from these kind of discussions. This is the purpose of our Sangha, to dive into the ocean of Bhakti Ras and explore the teachings of Acharyas. Very nice. Very nicely done. Let's open up the floor for comments, questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. What a beautiful class, Prabhu. Beautiful class. We took very nicely through the verse about absorption, what it means for Krishna to be away from our life, and what are symptoms, what does it look like, and the essence of having developing attachment towards Bhagwan. Beautiful presentation, Prabhu. When I read the verse for the first time, Prabhu, about being life, body kind of being useless or lifeless, you could say. As remember of a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think it's Madhya Lila, chapter 19, verse 75. Says, for a person devoid of devotional service, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya, birth in a great family or nation, knowledge of the revealed scriptures, performance of austerities, penance, chanting Vedic mantras are like ornaments on dead body. Mandaram Lokaranjanam. Right, so I just remember that particular verse that this is without Krishna, without bhakti. Here, I think would mean prema bhakti. It's like uh, ornaments on a dead body. I just remember that particular Prabhu. But yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu, for wonderful class. And other thing we have mentioned, Prabhu, is in Chaitanya Charitamrita itself, it's mentioned the primary characteristic of spontaneous love, Ragmar, is deep attachment, and absorption in him is marginal characteristic. The Swarup Lakshan, Tatastha Lakshan. It's mentioned that attachment is the primary characteristic, absorption comes kind of, as a marginal way. So this, I think, reinforces your point which you mentioned today about developing attachment towards Bhagavan and doing everything with that purpose. So yeah, thanks so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. All right.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, thank you so much for a very profound classes. All the other devotees noted. Very enlightening and a lot of things to ponder upon. Prabhu, would you be able to share the verse from Bhakti Rasayanam, the one about the jaundice that you talked about by Rupa Goswami?
The 7th verse of Upadeshamrit, not Bhakti Rasayanam.
Oh, it's Upadeshamrit. Okay. Okay. Jai Prabhu. I'm actually doing in the initial stages of my Bhakti Shastri. I think it's something that comes as part of Bhakti Shastri, right?
Yes.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
All
Hare
right.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry. Wonderful class, Prabhuji. Already all the devotees mentioned how wonderful it was. For me, like a lot of these concepts on absorption in Krishna, and these are vague in the sense that there is no clear understanding. So your class today, it just pondered more and more into what exactly it is with relatable examples and explanations. Uh, Very beautiful, Prabhuji. A lot to think about. So thank you so much for such a wonderful class. Thank you.
I just picked up points from previous acharyas and shared. That's all I did.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful lecture. And you covered various aspects. You started with aspects of devotee, and throughout your lectures, mostly I always see how you emphasize the importance of Raga Bhakti, and it's very nice. And like many self-check questions, like whether we're going towards Krishna or away from Krishna. In addition to what other devotees shared, thank you for a wonderful lecture, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I just want to point out that we have sometimes this misconception that this is Raga Bhakti. This is not Raga Bhakti, or it's not exclusive to Raga Bhakti at all. This is very much in Vaidhi Bhakti as well. That attachment to Krishna is not a characteristic of Raga Bhakti alone. It's a necessary element to go to the stage of Bhava Bhakti. And you can go to Bhava Bhakti even from Vaidhi Bhakti. As per Rupa Goswami's definition, the difference between Raga Bhakti, Raga Marg, and Vaidhi Marg is simply the form of Krishna that you are attached to, whether it is Vraja Krishna or Aishwarya Krishna. And Vraja means Madhurya. Madhurya in all the 4 rasas, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. But as a human, and in my various other classes, I have been unpacking this whole aspect of humanness of Krishna versus the godliness of Krishna. That is the difference between Raga Marg and Vaidhi Marg, not the attachment. To reach the stage of Bhava, one has to be completely attached. Asakti, Ruchi and Asakti have to be there even in Vaidhi Marg, but to the great God. One can have Ruchi and Asakti to the great God. That is Aishwarya Bhava, and that is Vaidhi Marg. So it would be, I just wanted to correct, it's not just like, oh, Rag Marg, and Vaidhi Marg is like, worst thing. Absolutely incorrect. I'm not saying you said that, but I'm just saying that one may develop that kind of an understanding, and that's not correct. In Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami says that Bhava Bhakti can be reached by 2 ways, Vaidhi and Rag. And Prema Bhakti, similarly, can be reached by both of those paths. The mood of the devotee is different in either of those paths. One is towards Aishwarya, one is towards Naratva. And that is why this 9 stages of bhakti are in the Prema Bhakti section, not in the Rag Marg section. Otherwise, they would have been only in Rag Marg section of Sadhan Bhakti. So even through Vaidhi Bhakti, all the 9 stages apply, which includes Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, and Prema. I just wanted to share that. Thank you. Inspired from your comment, not as a counter comment.
Yeah. Okay. Should we, Prabhu, end at this point?
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to say something, Prabhuji. And I relished the time I used for the preparation. It was very valuable for me.
Yes. So thank you, Parama Prabhu, for speaking today on this very important topic. Okay, so devotees, please join us. As we mentioned, we're having a nice program. Every Sunday is a nice program, but this is a special program to show our natural affection to Shishinitai Satchidanandan and to those who are dear to Shishinitai Satchidanandan. So please join. Program starts at 11 today with Kirtan, and then at noon there's a presentation by congregation devotees with bhajans and dance, and then arati that flows into the Abhishek. So you can join at 11 if you have the time. Okay. You can go ahead and leave at this point, Prabhu. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hare